Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Come to me on this.
Hey, thanks for joining us for another edition of Donnybrook. Great to have you with us. And we have a ton of topics to discuss, so let's meet the panelists and jump into the fray. Let's start with Wendy Wiese from the Big 550 KTRS, Bill McClellan from STLtoday.com and the Post-Dispatch, Reid Hartmann, founder of the Riverfront Times, and from the St. Louis American, Alvin Reid. Ray, we're going to start with you. I think Illinois made history this week when the Supreme Court there ruled that, yeah, it's okay for the legislature and the governor to get rid of cash bail. Now, other states like New Jersey have reformed cash bail, but this is the first state in the nation that has eliminated it entirely. So now, either the judge will say, hey, you're too dangerous to release, or you get released. But none of this, hey, put up 10% of $70,000. What do you think?
I think it's great. And I did my Substack on it this week. Ching, ching.
We should remind everybody that's Reid Hartmann's
it's okay.
St. Louis Insider on
Substack. I just put in a little plug because I wrote about it. But there are two reasons people should be held without bail. One is if they're a threat to public safety, and that can be in a case of a domestic abuser. It can be somebody that's dangerous to witnesses. It could be somebody dangerous because of something that they've done that's so violent, whatever, that they're a danger community. The others, if they're a flight risk. It's real clear. Those are the two reasons to keep somebody incarcerated. Otherwise, you know, people are entitled under the 8th Amendment and the Bill of Rights to bail. I mean, you can't have excessive bail. The only function of cash bail, by setting it at $5,000, the only function is to make it disproportionately harder for poor people who can't afford it. Most of us, I think any of us on the panel, people in our audience, the large majority of people could come up with $5,000 if it meant getting a loved one out of jail, pending their trial. There is a large group of people who are impoverished who can't meet that. There's the only reason to set cash bail, not regular bail, is to discriminate against those people. Poverty should not be a reason that you stay in prison. That's it.
Let me disagree with you, Ray. You know, in St. Louis, there's a story that we solve less than 50% of the homicides, or right around 50%. And one of the reasons that we have problems solving crimes is people are afraid to be witnesses. And the police always say that, you know, people say, hey, I don't want to testify, I don't want to be a witness because this guy will be out on the street tomorrow. And if we have this thing where the judges are letting people go because, well, it's unfair to keep a poor person in jail, things will only get worse. I mean, you know, it's a shame we have to put anybody in jail, but the truth is we need to put people in jail, and just saying, okay, well, you can get out because we don't want to disproportionately affect poor people, I just don't see it, Ray.
And I see in, you know, Illinois, big state, Chicago, big place, okay? And it still equates kind of to the same argument Bill is making, and you bring it right to St. Louis, not as big or whatever, but I think if you just say, we are not having it, there will be no more cash bail, I think you are setting yourself up for a magnificent failure because you're having too much trust because someone is poor, or the family can't get them out of jail. It just seems like you're saying everybody who can't make bail is worthy of this. And I've said, like, nope, some people need to be in prison, and a judge does not have to be the one to decide you're really, really dangerous. You did something dangerous, and if somebody can't come up with $500, then you're staying. And I think that's fair. I think that is one way to support public safety.
Because, as you're saying, and I agree with both of you, the victims and the potential victims are the ones who are really not being thought about here at all, in my opinion.
These people, keep in mind, we're talking about people who have been accused. They are presumed innocent.
And some of them have been...
Excuse me.
Right.
They are presumed innocent until they're found guilty. Now, we're not talking about...
Agree.
No.
I agree.
No, you're saying...
Well, no, I'm saying that essentially, and in the city of St. Louis, people can literally sit for months.
Yes, I'm not...
And they haven't been convicted of anything. We don't even know if they're guilty.
Years. You know, it is a complicated thing, Ray. Like, there's some truth to what you say, and there's some kids who get arrested, and they end up pleading guilty just to get out of jail because the public defender says, hey, I can get you a deal where you plead guilty to a felony and you get released.
Right.
There's some of that going on, but the idea we're just going to eliminate cash bail, and we're going to kind of let people
And then
go.
I think the story, which is the most ironic and tragic, is a story that Tony Messenger wrote about. He had a neighbor in Wildwood who was accused of a sex crime and got out because he posted bail. But there was a guy in the city who was dirt poor. His name was Damian Miller. Antione Miller. Excuse me, Damian. Antione Miller, who was accused of a similar sex crime, but he languished in jail for about 6 years. So Messenger made a case of it. It got in front of Judge Audrey Fleisig and other judges. The next thing you know, he's out, okay? And guess what he did? He shot his 65-year-old neighbor. Sometimes people are in jail for a reason.
The point is you have a system in which you are presumed, regardless of your income, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now, if you are deemed, this is about individualized justice. If you are, in fact, dangerous to people, judges have, in Illinois, still the ability to keep you in prison.
But there's a nuance there, because it's an 800-page bill. And in Illinois, unlike other places, in other places, if you're considered a danger to the community, you stay in jail. But in Illinois now, you have to be a danger to a specific person, and the prosecutors have to identify that person. Also, if you're a flight risk, now prosecutors have a higher standard. They have to have clear and compelling evidence that you're a flight risk, and that's why 100 of the 102 state's attorneys in Illinois oppose this bill.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you have to, I'm not getting into the details. We don't know the bill.
Almost have to.
No, we don't. Right? No, my point is, we don't know the point about, the issue is cash bail that we're talking about. And the point about cash bail is very simple. It creates a separate standard for poor people. Everybody should have someone that's an abuser, say a spousal abuser in Frontenac, should not be, very possibly should not be able to get out because they might hurt their spouse while they're waiting for trial. That's fine, but it shouldn't be any different whether you're, and it's not all the city, by the way.
That's funny you mentioned the spouse,
it could be
because
rural areas too.
when it comes to domestic abuse, when there is that hearing for the person to get out, the victim has to show up in person in Illinois now under this new law to testify.
You asked me about cash bail.
Well, that's what this is all about.
This is not about cash bail. Those are different.
This is the Illinois law.
The point is, cash bail has one purpose, and that is to have a different standard of justice for poor people than the rest of us. That's all I'm saying.
Name me any sector of America where poverty does not put you in the exact same situation as it does with bail. Okay, you're saying it's picking on people because they don't have any money and it's not fair. Okay, tell me something I don't know.
Right.
I mean, this is the judicial system.
Lawyers, right? A poor person is going to be stuck with a public defender.
Right, you can't afford Scott Rosenblum.
They might be good, but they're overworked. You know, if you have money, you can hire.
Scott Rosenblum.
How can a poor person afford Ray's Substack column?
That's a good point.
Or I mean, like, wait, a person
let's
with
move
money
on.
can bankrupt 3 companies, and
Alvin.
a poor person can't get one loan. It ain't fair.
Alvin, I want to ask you about the $250 million the city of St. Louis is getting from that NFL settlement. We all know about that. In November of 2021, Stan Kroenke and the NFL gave about $750 million to our area in exchange for to settle a lawsuit. $250 million goes to the city, and now the mayor and the president of the Board of Aldermen have announced they're going to have some public hearings, and their workers are going to go door to door to find out what people want to do with that $250 million. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea. I think when you really, really need to find something out kind of specifically, well, every 10 years we do a census, and people do go door to door because they want to try to get it right as best they can. I think it's wise to do that because if you just do online, there's a sector of all populations that aren't online, don't have computers or don't have Wi-Fi in their homes. It's a way to cover all, let's say, precincts of the city of St. Louis without leaving, you know, anyone out. So I think it's a good idea, and I
Well, Alvin, you were so right on in the last subject, and you're so wrong here. I mean, first of all, going door to door where we hire people to go around and find out what people think we should do. You know, this is a republic, right? I mean, we elect people to make some decisions, and I think that the alderman, the mayor, they ought to, you know, maybe they can have a couple committees look into it, public hearings, but they ought to be able to decide essentially how that money should be spent.
And door to door in something like this, when you're talking about this kind of money, that to me is subject to interpretation, and I just don't like that.
Okay, now it could be, and I don't know this, it could be like I go door to door. If nobody answers, I put a thing in the mailbox that says, would you like to see? And, you know, check it, and maybe you pay for the little card where all you have to do is put it in the mail or leave it there, and the postman will take it with it. But I could see having some type of personal contact in regard to this money. And it's not New York City. I mean, it's St. Louis.
I guess I'm having trouble understanding the harm in outreach that tries to get people's opinions. I mean, it's not going to solve all the world's problems, but I think it's a very nice gesture on the part of the city. And again, I don't want to tie it to that last topic because I realize we probably don't want to know what people who can't afford a computer can think. But in case we would like to, I would think that that's a way to get, you know, all you're doing is getting information. It's not that expensive to send people out door to door. It's not. What harm is it doing? Exactly what harm is it?
It's not that complicated.
What is
the city has public safety issues, 911, potholes, homeless, schools, and mental health.
That's it.
And that's it.
That's all. We don't. So we don't want to hear what somebody.
Well, what else is there?
You've been elected to decide.
What is wrong? What is wrong? What harm does it do to go door to door and get people's views? What harm?
For one thing, it's an expensive thing.
Oh my gosh! How expensive?
I really don't think it'll be that expensive.
How expensive do you think it's going to be? I mean, you know, seriously.
To hire a bunch of people to go door to door.
And have them have earnings that they reinvest in the city. That's a terrible idea.
Well, let's just give them the money away.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Let them have.
Wendy Wiese.
This is tough about the war on poverty.
I want to ask you about Francis Howell School District. There was a resolution passed by the previous school board that had some language anti-racism, and it was posted on some of the walls. Well, the new school board said that any resolution passed by the previous one, after 75 days, if this current school board didn't vote on it, we're taking it down. So this anti-racism memorandum or message is being taken down. How do you feel about that?
I hope that they will rethink that. I hope that they will rethink that. I think that they should leave it alone, leave it up. That's what to say that we are anti-racist doesn't have a sunset. You know what I'm saying? That should be an evergreen issue. Even though it's 7% of the students in the school district, they need to know that the school district welcomes them, especially after the optics of 2013, when you had thousands of people who were marching against the unaccredited Normandy School District, the transfer students. That's not a good look. And St. Charles County is a huge and growing, bustling community, and I would hope that they will change their mind and leave it alone.
I admire your idealism, but there is zero chance of them changing their mind because, you know, you can't, the new political correctness is you don't want to say anything is racist, but what else do you call an anti-racist act? I mean, it's part of a general trend this day on the right that basically has amazingly turned words like diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion into a bad thing. I mean, they're saying that what used to be the quiet part out loud, they are opposed to the idea of diversity. People are willing to say out loud, which they weren't before, I'm against diversity, equity, inclusion. People like Eric Schmidt are against it. And so the fact that they are opposed to an anti-racist thing means very clear, which is only posted in one school, right? It's one place. So it's the only thing they're targeting. They, you know, put in any words you want, but the fact is being anti
How do you, with a
anti-racism
straight face,
pretty much
say
equates with
that
being...
it was sunsetted? How do you say that with a straight face?
It's a terrible message to send for the school board. I mean, they don't have to believe in affirmative action. They don't have to believe in anything. But to make this as an issue, a message, we're going to take down the anti-racist thing.
And I agree with all. I will say this, that, you know, because it's physically on a wall and you're going to physically take it down, you're making your statement.
Exactly.
That's right.
You said, like, you should be welcoming. Well, they're not welcoming. The board members who are doing whatever that's leading to this, simply put, do not want any black people at the school. They are openly. Let me finish. If you're going to take an action like that, you are openly saying we really have no regard for you or your feelings or whatever, and that's fine. I wish more people were just upfront about it like that.
Let me throw this opinion here, and then you guys can jump on me.
All right.
Okay. These resolutions, they're meaningless. What we have to, some basic thing, we're against racism. Oh, well, it's like putting up something like, we're against homelessness. But are you doing anything about it? I think a lot of liberals, Ray, talk the good game about race and homelessness and poverty, when the issue should be, how are the test scores? Do we have enough African-American teachers? Are we making people really? And what are the goals here?
If they won't keep a resolution on the wall, what's the likelihood of worrying about the percentage of African-American teachers?
Because the resolution is meaningless.
No, it isn't meaningless.
It's not policy.
No, it's not
policy.
It doesn't mean it's...
Anyone can come up with a statement saying I'm against race and put up there, and then you think you've accomplished something.
Putting a statement about inclusion and that we oppose racism in a school is something that once was called educational. I mean, it's actually means something.
I call it virtue signaling.
Oh, right.
You know what? The only action that has been taken, you're talking about what liberals should be doing, the only action being taken is by the school board taking that thing down, okay? And then, two, what should somebody do? I'll tell you what should somebody do. Star football player, black star football player, sit one out. And don't tell them when you're going to sit it out, okay? All of a sudden, we don't go to the state playoffs, and people are calling the school board saying, like, hey, you know, yeah, take action. Everybody should be starting to take action.
I would feel more comfortable if the resolution wasn't a resolution, if it was a policy and said we are going to increase test scores by X% in math and English, science, etc., as opposed to something generic.
Test scores that are, first of all, testing a lot of studies is inherently racist, but in a racially unfair. But the interesting thing, yes, there's a lot of evidence that the testing itself.
That's fine. I mean, that's fine.
But Charlie, here's the thing. What you said about hiring more people, hiring more than affirmative, more black teachers, of course, is no longer allowed because we don't want affirmative action. So
wait a minute now. To get hired as a black teacher doesn't mean that everybody black teachers.
I'm not saying that, but the point is, now if you make it a goal,
there's a majority of a school board that's taking an action that is far more than questionable.
But no,
I am not.
There are other resolutions coming down.
This is not a national study. This is what's going on in Fort Zumwalt, and I know what's going on.
Yeah, and they're sending a message, Charlie. That's all they're doing.
It's straight out.
Bill, what kind of message is being sent by defense attorneys? Some of the top names in town who are giving money to Wesley Bell, the current prosecuting attorney for St. Louis County, who wants to be the next U.S. Senator. They're contributing money to his campaign, but isn't that a conflict of interest if they have business with his office?
Well, the message is life goes on. This is the way it's always been. I mean, Bob McCullough was a friend of mine. Lawyers gave him money. I mean, whenever you have a race for a prosecuting attorney or circuit attorney, the big donors come from the legal community. So, I mean, I don't see this as, you know, a bad thing for Wesley Bell. I don't think he should be running for Senate. Don't get me, you know, that's a whole other matter. But as far as running for prosecuting attorney again and taking money from lawyers, that's the way it is.
It seems like a conflict, but it's a professional courtesy. We all brought your barbecue sauce. I mean,
Did you?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I guess you didn't.
It was delicious.
I was actually going to say, Charlie, if you ran for mayor of Moline Acres, I'd give you $100. You still might be on the show.
That's right.
But I wouldn't feel obligated.
Should I be able to give a judge money?
If he runs for office?
In most of Missouri, you can, Charlie. I mean, we have in St. Louis, Kansas City, a nonpartisan judicial selection system. In most of the counties, it's a political office you run for. In Illinois, the Supreme Court judges run.
Well, and we know about the U.S.
I mean, I'm not saying it's good, but
there's a lot of stuff that doesn't pass the smell test, but still, it happens.
It is a bad, you're right in that it's a bad system, but it's like I say, why would Wesley Bell be, particularly in a Senate race, it's not even for running, but in any case, the point is, why would he be the place that starts this trend? Because every prosecuting attorney in the state that runs gets political contributions from lawyers. They just do. If you want to make it some kind of a law, I guess you could, but good luck.
I don't mind if it's a patent lawyer or a divorce lawyer who never has business in front of Wesley Bell. That doesn't bother me. But if it's a major major defender, you know, a criminal defense attorney,
they might be on the opposite side.
Yes, exactly.
Case, but it's not business before.
Of course they do, because they have plea bargains. How do you enter a plea bargain?
One could argue that the people who know the parties best are the ones who are in the system. And they can say, well, I think that Bob McCullough, or I think Wesley Bell, or I think whoever is doing a good job or a bad job, and give money accordingly.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think money influences people.
Oh,
and
you think? I do. By the way, I'm for public campaign financing.
Can't
but
tell by what you say.
Well, no, I mean, but the point is, sure, if we could take all money out of politics, we'd be all better off.
Right.
I don't know why you think it should start with Wesley Bell.
Not sure how that's going to happen.
Oh, okay. Where do we go now? Alvin, Reid, I want to ask you about the state of California, which has decided not to send any of its state employees to Missouri because the state has problems with recent transgender legislation was passed in Jefferson City. As you know, there are restrictions now on certain surgeries and medical treatments that people can get in the state. And so now California won't use any state money on any travel to Missouri.
Okay. All right. That's good. I think that's a good thing, except for one thing. I bet you UCLA's football coach will accompany that team when they play next time in Alabama or Missouri or states like this, San Jose State, all of the public, some kind of way. These universities are able to send their athletic teams to some of these states, and nobody really says anything. Now, if you're going to do it, then do it. We're not going there. We're not playing. Or you guys could go play, but the head coach and the other coaches that, you know, are paid by the state, they can't go. And that's just the way it just should be if you're going to do it.
Is he running for re-election? Because it almost kind of, like, as you're saying, it doesn't have any teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we don't know.
Well, if you went to Jefferson City and told our legislators that, you know, California is not sending anybody here, they'd be thrilled.
They'd be thrilled.
They'd be thrilled.
Well, but until that home-and-home series that was planned between UCLA and Missouri in basketball, and you said, like, okay, they're not coming. And University of Missouri would say, like, well, what do you mean they're not coming? Now, we got to figure this out.
Like the resolution of Francis Howell, it always comes back to football.
It does.
You are the sports columnist for the St. Louis American.
Hey,
Ray Hartmann, this is a crazy story. Kids who are eligible for special pandemic food stamps last summer in Missouri just got them in June. And the state's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has just announced that the 2023 benefits are not coming at all. That's these kids, 350,000 of them, are supposed to get about $120 one month. They're not going to get any of it. Who do you blame?
Well, are you surprised? I mean, this is a state that half of certainly the Republican Party has been 100% against expanding Medicaid and fought it even after the public voted for it. I mean, they are absolutely opposed, and this is the Parson administration. I suppose we can, I'm sure it's the DESE, whoever the head of DESE is, that made the decision, and maybe what's her name? I'm sorry, I don't even know. Marjorie, Van Diver. I mean, it may be her. I don't know, but it's really on Mike Parson. It's his administration, and I would think they would put it anti-welfare is the way they look at it.
But now it is federal money.
That doesn't matter. We've lost, how many, was it billions of dollars in federal aid over the years, not being willing to expand Medicaid. The state has been willing not to do it.
Apparatus.
It seems
It's
mean-spirited.
it is.
I mean, I don't see the political gain in saying we're not going to help these children get
But they're
food
not
stamps.
saying that, are they? They're saying it was the distribution apparatus.
It was the computers.
Right.
Oh, that's such nonsense.
Yeah,
Too
I know.
complicated
It's
for us.
such nonsense.
But there's, what, 47 states that it's not too complicated
Correct.
for?
It's nonsense. And Charlie, this
Kids, no.
Right.
I think it's incompetence
Well, no,
more
it
than
isn't.
evil.
It's not incompetence. They don't believe in it. It's for the same reason we literally had foregone billions of dollars of federal match. And by the way, there's a little detail: we pay that money in. You know, in Missouri, those are our dollars that we have left on the table because we disapprove of Medicaid.
Well, we re-elect the same people who do it.
Exactly.
Okay, on that not so hopeful note, let's go to the old mailbag. One of the main reasons Fair St. Louis is only one day this year is that the 4th falls on a Tuesday, which is difficult to turn into a multi-day event. That from Peter George of St. Louis, Missouri. We also heard from Bill Kellenberger of Weldon Spring. These teenagers need a place to go at 1:30 a.m. That should be home. Thank you, Bill. And you can write us care of 9 PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Don't forget those emails, Donnybrook@9pbs.org, and tweet #DonnybrookSTL when you do. Call the 9 line at 314-512-9094 and listen to us on your favorite podcast source, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, or Google Play. That's it for this week's show. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back next week at this time. Make it a good one.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.